Hi everyone, this is Cassandra Vose Demon.
And I'm Denny Savela.
And this is the When Will the Curtain Go Up podcast, creative artists emerging in an ever-changing world.
How will live performance artists emerge after the current pandemic? Even after a treatment, will people feel safe?
We will have honest conversations with members of the artistic community from all over the world as they tackle these questions. Artists will share what they are currently working on and discuss challenges and successes as they navigate this new reality.
Welcome to this week's episode of When Will the Curtain Go Up? This is episode 4. Again, thank you for joining us. Our guest this week is Mr. Billy Seger. And I said that right this time.
Yes, you did.
Billy has been involved in the arts since 8 years old, primarily as a performer. He studied at theater at Millikan University and has since gone on to perform in various venues across the country and internationally aboard Oceania Cruise Lines. You know, I read this 3 times and I still didn't get the Oceania right. Oceania Cruise Lines. Most recently, Billy has been exploring the theatrical arts from the other side of the table as a director, choreographer, producer, and designer for multiple local theater companies, community, we should probably do this again, community and professional, and currently heads up the front of the house operations for the Rouse Center for the Arts in Crystal Lake, Illinois, and serves as director advisor for Woodstock High School's theater program, his alma mater. He also teaches private voice lessons out of his home in Woodstock, Illinois. Once again, welcome, Billy.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot on your bio.
I know. How old are you? Can I ask how old you are?
Sure. Yeah, I'm 33. I had to think about it for a second. I'll be 34 in October. Yes. So I've always been very arts centric in my career, and as you know, as I've kind of done my performing thing, I was really fascinated with working with certain directors and choreographers, and then I kind of naturally found my way there by being like a dance captain or a vocal captain on the show. And then I started taking on assistant directing responsibilities, and then it just kind of happened naturally, and I really love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons that we started this show, obviously, is because we wanted to talk a lot with friends, colleagues, people in the performing arts business about how the pandemic has affected their work and their life, and what it looked like before the pandemic and what it looks like now. So if you wouldn't mind kind of elaborating a little bit about what things have been like for you since March.
Yeah. So oh man, in March, I was looking forward to a bunch of summer projects. We were in the midst of we're rehearsing for Wizard of Oz at Woodstock North and Woodstock High School. It's a joint musical that we do every year, and that was the production this year. We were in the middle of those rehearsals, and then it's kind of the silver lining here is that I know that a lot of high schools had gone through almost their entire rehearsal process and were up to opening day when everything shut down. So luckily that wasn't the case for us, but it still stung, especially for those seniors who were graduating and they were looking forward to their last musical production in high school. That's a big milestone for these theater kids. So that was heartbreaking, but at the same time, I'm glad we were still in a place where we hadn't gone so far that it was just we were just hemorrhaging money into a production that wasn't going to happen. But yeah, and then after that, it was just one after the other, the project started canceling. I think when this whole thing started, we were hopeful that it would only last for a couple months, and then maybe, we could mount our summer production of the show, and maybe we could start rehearsals on a fall production. And unfortunately that wasn't the case. That isn't the case. And so yeah, I had a lot of really exciting projects. I was going to choreograph Bye Bye Birdie for Woodstock Children's Summer Theater. I was going to work on Always Patsy Cline at Rouse Center for the Arts as assistant director. And I was supposed to go into pre-production for Matilda the Musical at Rouse Center for the Arts as the choreographer. And we had gone through the entire casting process, and it was a grueling process because the talent level was so high, especially for Matilda. And there are all these kids involved. So that was just another sting, letting down the kids, oh, this show that you were all excited about and we were excited about isn't going to be happening. obviously for safety reasons. And that no one's to blame for that, but it's been an adjustment. It's been like I said, there were a lot of projects that I was really looking forward to collaborating with my co-directors on and working with the casts on that material. And yeah, it's just been I was supposed to be teaching some workshops and classes this summer through Rouse Center and other venues in the area, and my summer ended up looking very different than I anticipated.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. We're going into the school year, and there's still, I think, a lot of questions about what that's going to look like. And since I am the theater director for Woodstock High School, I'm doing as much planning as I can to kind of anticipate, like I have like option A and option B. And obviously option A is like, hey, like maybe we get to do a show in the fall and welcome an audience into our theater. And then option B is like, well, are we going to do some sort of like virtual theater? Are we going to do an online play, a Zoom reading of something? So I have these like different, obviously I like the thought of option A, but reality is probably not that it's going to happen right away. Yeah. So so option B is becoming more, I'm actually having a lot of fun exploring option B a little bit more. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. It's been a whirlwind. It really has.
What are you doing right now? I mean, besides exploring the option Bs? I mean, at least there is an option B. You get to do it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I will say the administration at Woodstock High School has been, they've been champions of continuing programming as much as possible, which is great. I feel like, taking away these opportunities for kids to explore their artistry would be really detrimental to their emotional and mental well-being. So I feel like, if we're looking at this hybrid schedule of, half the classes are in person, half of them are at home, I think these kids still need an outlet to connect with friends, even if it is virtually, if we can't be in the same space together. So I'm glad that the administration is like still very supportive of the idea of continuing these after school programs and extracurriculars as, as just as important. They value them just as much as the education itself. So it's a good thing. It's a really positive thing. I was worried that it would become we're not doing art this year, no theater, but I think they're like I said, they've been very supportive. So that's been really, really good to see.
Yeah, that was one of the. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying, as far as what I'm doing right now, like I'm starting to work a little bit more at the Rouse Center. We've just as far as like getting the space ready and making sure we have all our safety protocols in line for when we do want to reopen eventually. We have some comedy specials that we film. So I'm keeping busy with that work, and also it's given me time to reconnect with voice students and really spend more time with them as far as just working on their instruments through Zoom lessons. Yeah, so I'm filling my time, but I'm also finding time for myself, which has been another silver lining in this thing. That I've been able to like focus on things that I've been meaning to do and get done around the house and in my personal life. That's been a nice thing, but obviously I'd rather be busy and working like the crazy theater maniac I am. So.
Well, one of the reasons that we wanted to have you on the show was because you have your sort of hands in a lot of different areas, and especially with the school, with the summer theater with the kids in Woodstock, with the Row. You had done stuff with the Woodstock Opera House in the past also, and a private teacher, and obviously we're friends too. So
Yes,
we had
very close friends.
we had some performances planned for the last several months that we also had to cancel.
Yeah.
And so that was a bummer. So I look forward to the day when we can do that again.
I miss singing with you. My heart needs it.
Oh my God, you're not kidding, man. So, well, we have a Hamilton service for the church at the end of the month.
That's right. That's right.
So we'll get that.
We got to collaborate. We got to figure that out.
We'll figure it out. But one of the things that I was wondering actually about the school, because I was curious. I just spent some time with my nephew and niece this past week, and one of them was in dance. She's a dancer, and was used to dancing 10 or 12 hours a week, and then she quit dancing because the Zoom thing wasn't working for her. And she talked a lot about how they've canceled their own production of Nutcracker this year, and they're doing all these, and it was the year as a senior that she was going to get a big part. And,
Yeah.
it's like all these things. And my nephew, who takes piano, same thing. It's like they're not going to piano lessons, they're not doing all these things. So maybe you could speak a little bit more to the impact that you feel like, not keeping the arts involved, especially with young people, um,
Mhm.
would have on them. Because I know that it's a huge mental health thing and it's a big expressive outlet for kids. Maybe you could speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, for sure. So, the thing that I love most about theater, and I've loved since I was a kid, that it always felt like a safe space for me to explore really like who I am as a human. It's theater is, and any art really is really, it comes back to humanity and like just having a better understanding of yourself and a better understanding of society and relationships. So I think, in the absence of these things happening, in person, and it's also theater especially is a very interactive art form. You can work on your craft, you can work on monologues, you can do reading plays is like one of the I tell my students, one of the best things you can do is just read a play, do your own self-analysis of it, find a character you identify with. And then during this time I've been kind of telling them like read plays, build a monologue book, build your vocal audition book. But yeah, it's as far as like the absence of these things, I feel like it's so important, especially kids who are already invested in the arts, because it feels like a safe place for them. It's a second home. And when they lose that option as like a place to explore themselves, it can really, I felt it too. I'm 33, I'm not a kid anymore. I like to pretend I'm a kid sometimes, but I'm not actually a kid. But I felt it. I felt this, like, my creative energy was just like suddenly squashed. And it takes a toll on you. It really does. Because especially when it's something that you love so much and you crave so much to create. And so I think, and I have to say, like, I really love how the industry and how schools for dance and vocal studios have like really really tried so hard to adapt their methods of teaching. I think, I know it's not ideal for everybody and it doesn't work for everybody, but it's nice to see that, we're trying to find other options. We're trying to find this new normal for the time being, where kids can still come to a Zoom class and explore their talents and, work with the teacher, even though it's always better to work in person. But, and for those people who have trouble doing that the Zoom thing, and like I don't want to sit on the computer and like learn this way, I'm encouraging them to like kind of discover their own art. If you're a dancer and you don't want to take an online dance class, find a song and choreograph a number for yourself. Like just and even if it's not for you don't want to film it, that's fine. But just like something for you to explore what you can create on your own. I think that's a new challenge that is kind of exciting. Like you don't have all these other people to feed off of. You have to find it within yourself. But it can also be a very daunting task if you haven't experienced that before. And a lot of us haven't. So I think that, the absence of art can be very, very draining on the soul. And just, I know theater feeds my soul, my heart. It's my heart center. The arts are like, that's what keeps my heart beating, and but I do think that it's interesting to see how people are kind of rising above and finding ways to continue to explore that passion, even when they're on their own and when you can't be with a group of people who you're used to being with. So I think it's like I said, I'm really happy that the administration is so supportive of these efforts going forth. Going forward into the new school year, with keeping the kids engaged and keeping the arts alive. Really, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. You're kind of a triple threat. I want to Actually, you're more than a triple threat. You're a quadruple threat.
Yeah,
Um, well,
I'll take it. Thank you.
yeah, no, you're going to be one of our, I think, more interesting interviews because you got such a diverse background. I guess is a good way to put it. You teach, you write, you sing, you dance.
Yeah.
What I miss? You direct.
Direct, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's and especially at the high school. So at the high school, it's really interesting because basically I got the job and I was just handed this theater program where I was the director, I was the producer, I ran the thespian troupe. I say ran like I don't do it anymore. I still do. I run the technical aspects, so I'm also able to. And it's been having that job has been really really awesome because it's also kind of like prepped me for something like this where I have to force myself to like figure things out because like I didn't go to school for like lighting design. I know what I want with lights, but it's really forced me to get hands on with the equipment. Um, so the high school job has been great because I manage all aspects of it. I did a musical last fall. We did Schoolhouse Rock Live Junior, and I was the music director and the choreographer and the scenic designer and the lighting designer. And luckily, I have this great group of kids that are all very much involved with that design process and the creative process. And what's cool about that program is that it's not like I need to take it all on myself. They're so happy to help and be there to support. The parents are great. We've had this like resurgence of parent involvement in the theater program, which is really really awesome to see. But yeah, I've it's kind of amazing to me. Like I think back where I was like 10 years ago, like when I was like, I'm going to perform the rest of my life and I'm going to move to New York and be this big Broadway actor. And, I had all these like really lofty ambitions, but it's funny how life kind of takes you down, your own individual path. And then you start to like reevaluate the things that are important and also just like your view of what you have to offer an arts community anywhere. It doesn't have to be New York. It doesn't have to be in the heart of any big city. I'm living in Woodstock, Illinois, a sweet little small town in the Midwest, and I'm able to have a life here as an artist in all these different places, doing all these different things. So it's been a really interesting journey for me, just like discovering what it is I have to offer and how valuable it can be anywhere, really. So yeah, I thank you for saying that. I've trained a lot. I've done a lot of soul searching and figuring out what it is I really want to do. And I feel like my life, I love to perform, and I will do that until I can't anymore, which I'll be on my deathbed still performing a musical. Uh, but the directing stuff has really there's no better feeling for me than sitting in an audience and watching something that I've helped create with the performers on stage, and then the performers taking such pride in the material and what they're doing, and then the response from the audience witnessing that joy and that pride and just buying into what we've created together. There's that feeling is. I remember the first time I felt it, I did Into the Woods at Woodstock Opera House. That was like my first time directing a full-length musical. This was back in 2016. And after that first opening night, it was actually the preview, and just the feedback from the audience and the actors were exhausted after a week of tech, but they were also excited to come back to the theater the next day, which was just so was moving. It was a spiritual experience for me. I feel I was very emotional, and anyone who knows me knows that I'm quite the emotional person. Anything can make me cry. But yeah, it was. So I've been very lucky to have been on this journey and to just kind of trusted myself and trusted where the journey will lead me to the next thing. So it's been great.
I love that. I love that you're showing sort of this passion that I know you have, for all of these things in your heart. And I think sometimes, when you're doing all the things that you do, people don't always get to really kind of hear how you feel about what you do. and the
Right.
impact that you're having and the value that you're bringing to the communities that you serve. And, I think that it's an awesome thing. And you and I have had many conversations about, find where you can bring value to where you are instead of focusing so much on what's
Yeah.
outside of you.
Yeah.
Um, because everybody deserves to, have a chance to be in the arts and, do a show and sing a
For
song and
sure. Yeah.
make a painting and, all of that. And I think a lot of times for young people, especially, it's like people think that the only way that you're successful is if you somehow have, 5 million followers on Instagram and, you've got a Grammy and this and that and the other thing. And then there's so many people in this business that are just working under the radar, doing it every day, doing a great job at it, providing
Yeah.
amazing, art to their community. And I think that we need to pay more attention to those people, to be honest with you, because, they're all in the trenches doing it every day. And they don't have a $5 million budget to put a put a commercial
Right.
together or
Right.
whatever,
I mean,
and nothing to
people
say about.
think,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, people think about theater and it's like, oh, Broadway, but like theaters exist everywhere. And even audiences in those smaller communities, they still need that stuff. We like you, and what's great about, community theaters and local professional theaters is that people who can't make the trip to New York to see a Broadway show, it's expensive and also not happening right now. But which is crazy. But it's like for a lower price point, you can still experience really great theater. And I say this all the time. I lived in New York for a very short time. I thought that that's where I wanted to be, and it very quickly became it was very quickly became clear that that was not where I was meant to be. I had a sweet deal on an apartment on the northwest corner of Central Park, and I was like, this is awesome. Northeast corner, I lied, northeast corner. And I had this place, and I was like, this is great. And I was doing a lot of temp work, and I was auditioning, and I was going to see Broadway shows. And I gotta say, like, since I've been away from New York, quickly found out I didn't love it there. But I've seen stronger art in other theaters than Broadway theaters at times. Like I've seen a production of a show in New York, and then I saw another production in a small storefront theater in Chicago, and I go, wait, like, but that was a much more effective production to me. Like, it was more entertaining, or it was more emotionally gripping, or art exists everywhere, and those communities that support those art centers and those production companies are just as valuable as the big ticket Broadway show audiences. So yeah, it's important. Arts are important. We got to keep them alive.
Yes. What is and I agree with you 100%, because I think, a lot of people don't necessarily give smaller theaters or productions a chance, and then, give them a
You can
chance,
be
because
surprised.
I
Yeah.
have seen some of the most amazing, poignant theater in our area, also in Chicago,
Mhm.
Milwaukee. I mean, there's a lot of different places around here that have incredible art. Woodstock Opera House too. Um, and the Row. So, what would you say at this point is your biggest obstacle going forward?
Um, Man, biggest obstacle. I think it's just kind of that. It's like that hurry up and wait mentality, which has kind of like always been a part of the theater community, but now we're feeling it in a very significant way. Um, we don't have the answers. There's no end date to when this is going to be over. So it's hard to, you know, you can prep as much as you want, but you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. Every day is something new. There's a new challenge. I think that, and honestly, for me, like in all the jobs that I have, like that's kind of where we're all at. We're just kind of in this holding pattern, and just kind of taking in new information in that comes in every day, and then applying that to a plan, and then you, okay, scrap that. Let's make this approach. Oh wait, no, that there's a roadblock there. Let's go back to square one. So I think that for me has been the most challenging, and in some ways, like kind of thinking outside the box. But I found that has not become as much of a challenge anymore. It's become more of a joy to think outside of the box. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of theaters that have just shut their doors permanently going through this pandemic, and it's heartbreaking. A lot of like really well respected theaters have just decided to call it quits because they won't survive, um and theaters that are trying to reopen are facing a lot of scrutiny, because it's just not safe. We're not at a point where we can say, all right, business as usual. So you have to adapt. You have to figure out new ways to provide this art form to people in the safety of their homes, which is, it's a little streaming services are doing really well. We all can agree on that. I mean, how many shows have you watched at this point? I've watched Netflix. I've watched all of Netflix. I think I think the hardest part has just been like the hurry up and wait. And I'm a kind of person, I'm always on the go. I'm always like, okay, what's the next thing? Next thing, next thing. All right, I'm halfway through production on this show, but I'm already have a scenic design in place for this next show, or I'm already working on the opening number of this next production, or here's my concept for the show I'm doing 2 shows from now. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of hard to just sit with myself and be like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen, but I can make plans, but they might all be canceled tomorrow. Who knows? And to me, that's been the hardest thing, is just waiting, just seeing where the chips fall.
It's a different hurry up and wait, though. I mean, when the old hurry up and wait was, okay, I'm waiting for, I know this guy's going to take a week to get back to me. Now it's
Yeah.
What's going to come next now?
Right. And then when you do get the go ahead, then it's like a wait and hurry almost. Like, wait. All right, we got a week. Go. Boom. Let's get this out there. Get this out there. It's like, so even me being like the manic theater person I am, that's even a little too intense for my style. It's a lot. It's a lot. So yeah, it's the wait and hurry. We'll say it's the wait and hurry is the new normal in theater.
Yeah, I feel like that's when this all got shut down. I mean, you and I had talked too at that point, but there were so many things in the works and ready to launch. You know what I mean? And just an enormous amount of work that had been done. And I think that was something we touched. Denny and I talked about on another show too. It was like, there was all this work that got done that literally just boom, gone. And one of the things we had talked about was how you can't, when you have 4, 5, 6 months go by, you can't just like do that again. You can't just take that work and like re-up it. It's like you have to go back and relearn or redo or reproduce, everything that you'd been
For
doing.
sure.
And so it's a crazy time. How is the I know because you're front of house at the RAW, maybe we could touch on that just a little bit.
Yeah.
How has the RAW been trying to, move through this time?
Well, we've been focusing a lot on safety procedures, protocols with reopening the theater. I've been very proud to work with our team on all the things that we've kind of put in place, socially distant seating arrangements. It's hard because, we're a 750 seat theater, but, we're only allowed to have 50 audience members in the space at one time. So that's, I mean, I don't do math, but I don't know what that fraction is of our audience. But it's challenging to think that that's what we're going to be looking at for the near future. So what we're doing is we're really trying to just remain positive and just focus on the things that we can do to make the space safe and to encourage people to eventually return to the theater in a more consistent manner. We have, it's been a lot of purchasing of items that are very expensive. And that's where it becomes challenging, because we're looking at a business model that isn't making any money right now, but we have to spend a bunch of money to hopefully make that money back in the future. But the future is uncertain. So it's, personal protection equipment is expensive. And that's, at one point I went online to buy these hand sanitizer stations for our lobby. and our lobby and our bar areas and our bathrooms, and just making sure we're fully stocked with all the stuff that we need to wipe down surfaces and sanitize. And I was like, oh, this is a great price. And then after the weekend, I was going to purchase on Monday, and they had jumped like hundreds of dollars. So it's almost like that market is also taking advantage of the fact that people really need this stuff. And so then it was like, okay, back to square one. We can't afford this. Like, that's outrageous what they're asking for these things.
You know what I want to ask though? How is it? We heard from a couple of different theaters. Woodstock Opera House is lucky enough to be supported by the village. I mean, how are you? What are you doing to get money, since obviously there's no ticket sales? How are you trying to support yourselves right now?
Right. So we really rely on memberships. Memberships for our programming. There are a lot of benefits that go along with the membership program for the Rouse Center. We have Lucy's virtual comedy cafe. People who are members of that are offered a free viewing of that almost every Friday. So we film them in person the Thursday before, and then we release them the Friday after. And so we rely on memberships, donations. We're a not-for-profit, so donations are really important. And just as an arts center, it's been challenging. We've been offering virtual classes for our Sage Studio program, which is one of the finest theater education programs in the area. So that we're just kind of relying on the goodwill and good nature of people to keep supporting us. And like I said, the personal protection equipment is so expensive, and it just becomes a numbers game of like, can we afford this? We need to make these adjustments. We need to have these things in order to make good in the public eye once we reopen. So it's a lot to think about. It's a lot of writing up budgets and seeing how it works, and like, how can we make these things happen, and really get the message. I mean, the other thing is getting the message out to the people, to our theater goers, to the people, to our audience members, that we are taking every precaution necessary to make your return to the theater as safe as possible. So it's a lot of strategic planning and just kind of communication with our team, and then how do we communicate that to the community itself.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you kind of touched on the expense, of having
Mm-hmm.
to have all these cleaning things, have all this, the masks, have all the stuff that you need in order to make the environment safe.
Right.
Those are another business expense that I think a lot of people don't think about, that
Don't
are
really consider,
costing
yeah.
businesses, theaters, whatever, an actually pretty big amount of money, in hopes that, they'll somehow make that back. I mean,
Right.
it's a pretty tough situation. So, I know I miss it. I know Denny misses it. We all miss it.
Yeah.
But so if you had touched a little bit about your membership, what kinds of things in general, not just with the ROW, but in all the different things that you're doing, um, where do you see the community's role in helping? What can people do to help?
Yeah. So really, it's the memberships and donations are kind of like the lifeblood of any nonprofit or small theater company right now, because they can't sell tickets, right? Um, so I think also just and part of it is just like you know being aware of the arts community and how many people rely on this as as their source of income. This is like what we do for a living. I think there's some, and it's always been this way, but I think it's just becoming more apparent now that people kind of think as the arts, or doing theater, singing songs, is a hobby. It's not something you make money doing. But then you have people at home watching Netflix and like, well, what are they doing? They're actors and they're professionals. We're just doing it on a smaller scale. We're not filmed and put on a streaming service. We're doing it live on a stage. And not even, I shouldn't say smaller scale, because there's a lot that goes into those kinds of productions. So I think just a general awareness and understanding that this is what we do for a living, and our industry has been decimated by this. Like, this is not it's going to take a while for us to get back to where we were. And I think the more people just really, if people want to say, anyone who says the arts don't matter, I say, well, what, do you have Netflix? Do you have Hulu? Do you have all these things? Like, that's like, honestly, the arts got you through this pandemic, and we're not even through it yet. So I think, making donations when you can, raising awareness for the importance of the arts, becoming a member for a local theater that you really respect their mission and their vision for what they feel the arts can bring the community. Any way that you can show support and financially or otherwise is just the way to go. Talk to your representatives. Make sure that there's arts funding. Going into, like there's arts funding that's available to these theaters and these nonprofits that can, take in, we were really lucky at the route. We got a couple really good donations and funds were provided to us by the city of Crystal Lake. So we've had a lot of support through all of this. And I think just keeping that alive and knowing that we're not through it yet and understanding that this is not over. So every little bit counts, every little bit helps. And the arts are for everybody, it's not just for you, it's for your children or your grandchildren or your nieces and nephews or your grandparents. Everyone gets something out of taking in a theatrical experience. And just recognizing the importance of that and how it really creates a sense of community, and it's important. It's important to acknowledge it.
Yeah, I appreciate that you bring up the fact that people don't realize that you don't have to be a rock star, and you don't have to that's
Right.
that's the thing that people really need to realize. There's people making money at this, being in the arts, but not having an Academy Award on their shelf. I have Buzz
Right.
Lightyear. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I think the more people realize that, the better off our industry will be in the long run. I do feel like once we come out of this, and maybe this is me just being the eternal optimist that I am, I do feel like once things get back to normal, there is going to be a resurgence of people coming back to arts centers and participating in performance events, and like coming in as audience members, seeing a show, going to a concert, supporting a small cabaret performance. I think there's going to be a lot. We're going to see this like rise in people wanting to get back out there, but who knows how long that could be? That could be a year, it could be 3 years, so people feel really comfortable. But I feel like the optimist in me is hoping that people will still be there, and will be there in droves once we reopen our doors.
I think I have a prediction. My prediction.
Yeah, go
See,
for it.
they're not going to be able to make any more things on Hulu and Netflix and everything. So when next season comes out and they don't have anything new, here we are.
Here we are. Local theater makers.
That's right. They'll be coming back to us.
Yeah, exactly.
What brings you hope? I mean, you did actually just touch on it a little bit, but like in today, what brings you hope in your daily life now?
I think it's the kids that I work with. They're, as much as I'm an optimist, but I also am like very like aware of the reality of what our reopening school is going to look like, and what the reality of our theater program is. Their hunger, I always say, bring the hunger, bring the heart. And their hunger and their heart for what they do and what they participate in is absolutely incredible. And I work with kids at the high school. I work with kids at Rouse Center. We're doing these virtual classes for the Rouse Center Sage Studio program, and we see people posting videos of like their kids participating in the classes at home, or and there's been a lot of like students that I know like posting videos of themselves singing and like just having that outlet to show the world like this is what I love to do and I can't do it right now, but I'm going to do it for you here. And in that regard, they're still doing it, right? So I think that that's the thing that gives me the most hope. I feel like the youth of today are very aware of the reality of what's happening, and I think that they're so hungry to find a way to make it work, and that brings me hope. Not only for just like getting through this pandemic, but just for the future of art. It's very cool to see these younger generations kind of rising to the challenge of, okay, how do we keep ourselves relevant? How do we keep doing the things that we love to do in the face of such, such a challenge as a global pandemic? So I think that's the thing that really has brought me the most hope. And it hits me in really unexpected ways and at unexpected times. It could be just a simple text message like, hey, we'd like to get together and have a meeting about what next year is going to look like. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. I'm ready, kids. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's do it. And just that they're taking the initiative to make things happen and to keep them, like I said, keep themselves relevant and the program relevant, I should say, is really, really cool. Very cool.
Neat. That's very. What we haven't done is we have not touched on you. I mean, obviously professionally, we know your help with the ROW, and we can say the rowcenter.org is where you can go to see more about that.
Yes.
But what about you? What about Billy Seger? Is there a website we can say, or you have anything coming up that you're going to want to get going again? And
yeah, I don't have a website per se. It's probably something I should have worked on during all this time off. I did build one a while back, but it's been a long time since I've looked at it, and I'm not good with the technology. It's just not something that I was ever very good at. I might have to end up hiring somebody who needs to design a website for me. But as far as like what I have coming up, it's mostly just based on like what theaters are capable of doing right now. I will say I've been writing a lot. I've been writing a lot of just like concepts of like, I come from a theme park cruise ship background. Like that was primarily what I did right out of college. So I have a bunch of like themed cabarets that I'm working on and lightly scripted themed shows. And honestly, not even like that. I mean, if I got to put these productions on one day, that'd be great. But like, it's more so just to keep my soul and my heart engaged in what I love to do, and to keep conceptualizing stuff. I've in figuring out what the school year is going to look like. I've read a lot of plays, and I've kind of decided on some that I'd like to explore even in the next couple of years at the high school. And I've been kind of conceptualizing and thinking about those things. So as far as like supporting me, Billy Seger, the artist, it's, I think as long as your listeners are supporting those institutions that hire people like me, that's the biggest help right now. Because once, if that support is there, then when I come back, I'll have a job to come back to. I'll have an artistic project to get my hands in and really get them dirty. So I have a list of shows that I'm just kind of like going through and conceptualizing and having fun, just kind of doing that, and like I said, doing a lot of writing on just like little performances, little pop-up performances. We can do pop-up performances. I feel like are going to be a thing that are very relevant in the future. Like I was talking to my kids about possibly doing like a Shakespeare, 2-person Shakespeare scenes on the green in front of the high school, and then everyone kind of social distance at their own level of comfort, wear a mask, and donations only. Like, we're not going to charge you a ticket price, but come and go as you please. And we're going to, possibly have some little 1-act Shakespeare scenes, or like little 10-minute scenes, I should say, and directed by students. So the students also get to explore that side of their artistry, as well as not just being a performer in the shows, but also taking on more of a lead director role. So, I think that just when those things happen, if you can and you feel comfortable, show up, donate. And if you can't show up, share the message. Share the things that you see about the arts, and keep them. There's a lot of negative stuff on social media these days, and it makes me emotional. It makes me emotional just thinking about it. When I stumble upon a video of, here's a song from a musical, and it's a Zoom choir of these people singing this song, or not even a musical song, any song really. Or here's a song and someone recorded themselves dancing to it, and then all of a sudden it turns into 5 people dancing from it from the safety of their own homes. When I see stuff like that, that's the stuff we need to be sharing on social media. That's the stuff that we need to be engaging in and making the most important, because that's where humanity is. That's where we see the good of humanity is in those moments. And like I said, I get emotional when I see those videos, and I always share, yes, positive. I want positivity on my Facebook page. There's enough darkness in the world, and just those little moments to bring people joy, I think are so important.
I appreciate speaking to people who are really truly in the arts, because you can tell when somebody really is, because they're very unselfish in their message. I'm serious. I mean, you always hear, if I'm going to bring this up. The Weekend Warriors. You can tell who the Weekend Warrior is, and you can tell who the real, everyday, this is what I do for a living person is, because it's always share everything, share, what about us? The words us, we, this is what we do. So, yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate your message on this. Very, very much.
Artists don't really get weekends. We're always doing something in the day to further the project we're working on. Any day of the week, Yeah. Weekends don't really exist for us. In fact, weekends are often the times we're most busy.
We spend our week getting ready for that weekend, and that's
exactly
that people don't realize. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm really glad that you said that, Denny, because I was, feeling the same thing about just the heart part, and how much it, when you're in it all the time, you're always thinking about, how can I create something that will have meaning or value or whatever to the community or to the people that, I work with, or how can I bring them out into the world? And that's, most of the people that I know, and I think it's a really good point, that are really in this for the long haul as artists, musicians, whatever, they are thinking about it in a wider community way. They're thinking about how do we give people an opportunity to express themselves and be human, and share the human experience. And so I think you had put a quote on here. I kept reading it, Billy. It's art washes away from the soul the dust of everyday life, by Pablo Picasso. And I love that you wrote that, because I feel like that has sort of been your intention in your world as an artist. And it's one of the reasons I think we're friends, because I think we have a shared heart for what it does. And so we're blessed to have you in our community, and I'm blessed to have you as a friend, and we're blessed to have you on our show. I can't think of a better way to wrap this up, unless you have anything last that you would like to share with, any last comments that you'd like to share with our audience.
I just can't drive the point home hard enough that the arts are not just personally, but I feel like they're the heart and soul of any community. There's a lot that goes into it that people don't understand, but then what comes out of this, all this blood, sweat, and tears that you pour into a project, is this really lovely just piece that is meant to be shared with the community. It's meant to be shared for everyone to experience. And I think going to a show and sitting in a theater, and you can sit in a dark theater with a bunch of people from different walks of life, and different views on what's important in life, and different political affiliations, different religions, and they sit in a dark room and they all experience the same thing together. And there's just something so remarkably beautiful about that. And and the importance of that is especially, I don't mean to get political, but especially in our, everything that's happening in the world right now, politically and socially, it's so important to remember that we are we're creating art for humanity, for humankind. And I just to say the arts are important and they're a value, and if there's anything that you can do financially or support wise to make sure that these institutions come out of this pandemic as unscathed as possible, do everything you can, and we will be here to support you and lead you into this new tomorrow. That's what we're here to do.
Yep.
Thank you so much for
Thank
taking the time
you.
today. This has been a fantastic way to spend a morning.
Oh, me too. I'm like ready for my week now.
That was why, Denny and I were talking when we started this. We talked about it in the first show I think that we did. Was that this gave us a purpose? This putting this together gave us a purpose to be able to talk to people like you and other people in our business, and give us all maybe a little bit of therapy while
Yep.
also really kind of telling the truth and
Yeah.
stories about what what we're experiencing and what things we're looking at, but also seeing the hope in it and the gifts in it. So thank you so much for being a part of that with us.
Thank you for having me. This was really nice. I really enjoyed being able to talk through my feelings today.
No, that's good.
It helps, right?
Yeah, I really do appreciate your message. And the nice thing is that so far everyone's had the same message that's been on with us, and that's to share. Sharing
Yeah.
is free. So
Yes. Sharing is free.
yeah. So thank you very much. Thank you everyone for
Thank
listening.
you.
Yeah. And join us every Thursday. We release our shows on iTunes, Podbean, was it Google Play?
It's on Google Podcasts
Is that Google
and
Podcast?
Facebook, and
And
we
YouTube.
will
Did I say YouTube already? See, I've got a
YouTube,
short memory there.
and soon we'll be on Spotify. So yeah, check us out, like us, so that we can continue to bring you these great members of our communities to share the message that we were trying to get out there. So we will see you next time. And thanks.
That's
again
right.
to
Join
Billy
the
Seger.
showgram 7:30 on Thursdays. New ones are released. See you later, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of When Will the Curtain Go Up? Creative artists emerging in an ever-changing world. Hosted by Cassandra Vosdemon and Denny Svela. New episodes air on Thursday evenings on YouTube, Facebook, and your favorite podcasting platform, including iTunes and Google Play, as well as Podbean. Have a great week, and we hope you'll join us again. Thank you for joining us for this episode of When Will the Curtain Go Up? Creative artists emerging in an ever-changing world. Hosted by Cassandra Vosdemon and Denny Svela. New episodes air on Thursday evenings on YouTube, Facebook, and your favorite